All right, guys, so David Pakman got Mike Lindell on his show. This is interesting because nobody beats on Mike Lindell more than David Pakman. I mean, this dude, he is David Pakman's pinata. David Pakman probably has more videos on Mike Lindell than anybody I've ever seen, and they are absolutely ruthless, and I think rightfully so. Like, I think that's the correct reaction, but Mike Lindell agreed to come on the show. Lord only knows why. Probably a glutton for punishment. And it didn't go well. Let's just say Mike Lindell explodes at multiple occasions. And it's funny because if you watch the whole interview, by the end of the interview, you're like, he actually thinks he freaked it in this thing. Which is just stunning. I mean, somebody should, do some research on Lindell's brain and how it functions, because there are some screws loose up there. Anyway, so let's watch some of it here and I'll react.
And the meat of this, because you and I spoke about a year ago, and at one point it wasn't clear if you remembered that conversation, but I know you've reviewed it. I want to run by you the following. You said over the last couple years, in August, that Trump would be back in office by the end of the month. That was August 2021. You said in November of 2021 that it would be in the Supreme Court by Thanksgiving, that it was, quote, locked in stone. You said at the end of 2021 that it was still happening by the end of that year. You have made all of these specific time predictions, and as we know, none of them have happened. Why not?
Well, there's a big reason for that. The evidence I got on January 9th was by a person, which I can come out with his name now, Dennis Montgomery. He was a whistleblower with the CIA. He worked with the CIA and the government for years, developing a thing called Hammer Scorecard.
Okay.
And this is all the information he gave me on January 9th. When we were going to release it at the Cyber Symposium, we were told, because there's a government gag order on it, that we cannot release it, but Dennis put in to get it released.
One of the things I'm amazed by is that it doesn't matter what question you ask Lindell, he can talk for like 17 minutes in response to it and not skip a beat. There's not a single or any sort of speech tick that he has, which shows he's not connecting the thoughts well or whatever. He could just go off on a 17-minute tangent and not fucking stop. And it doesn't matter how much you think you have him in a chokehold, he'll just wiggle out of it and start saying things that are absolutely insane, but he delivers it like a G. It's kind of amazing to watch. Anyway, keep watching this.
At the same time we did our show last year, he put that in, and they said they wouldn't release it. We went ahead with the Cyber Symposium. We could show that we had the data, that it was from the 2020 election, but we couldn't show the back-end data. There was, on the third day, they would not let us show it. My lawyers said no. They advised us, don't put it out. Let's work on this gag order. Now, years went by, and then I had the Moment of Truth Summit about a month ago. On stage, where Dennis has had this to get released in Nevada, I actually I bought the software now, and so I own it. So I have the software that Dennis developed and everything, and the data from the 2020 election. Now, I put in Nevada to get it released about a month ago. Just this last Thursday, the government came in and said, this is not going to be part of the gag order. So that is big news. It's breaking news. I didn't know that when we were going to get on your show. So now we can release it to the king. I can bring it to my lawsuits. And
good.
We subpoenaed on Friday Brennan, Clapper, Negroponte, Baker. We subpoenaed all these guys. You're probably not going to see that in the news.
No, well, I can't imagine that they'll respond to the subpoenas. But, Mike, you've mentioned so much. Let me just make one comment here.
Yeah.
Dennis Montgomery, a con man. I mean, just an out-and-out con man, habitual liar, engaged in 5 major frauds, terrorist software hoax, Nevada gubernatorial bribery scandal, wiretapping allegations that he has not been able to prove. We're talking about an out-and-out con man here.
Well, you know what? You can say that, but you can go to DennisMontgomery.com now, and all that has been completely fabricated. So
I know that you're saying that this guy's a fraud and that you got 30 news articles and a lot of evidence to prove that, but if you go to his own website, he says that he's not a fraudster. Thank you, Mike Lindell. Look, you do wonder, to what extent is Mike Lindell lying versus he actually believes all this stuff because he's being fed bad information from other con men. That leads to him doing the ultimate con, which is, repeatedly say, Trump's going to be back in office in like 7.5 minutes. I guarantee you, just watch. Wow. Look, credit to Pakman here because you cannot and should not talk to somebody like Mike Lindell unless you know roughly what he's going to bring up and you can respond to it with facts. And it appears like David Pakman is prepared. Like he's prepared for all of the garbage that's about to be spewed, and he's going to rebut it in real time. And that's a difficult thing to do because Mike Lindell has, so many little things that he brings up. And if you don't respond to one of them, people might, was that one true? And it's like, no, his track record is he's wrong on all of them. If you debunk like 2 or 3 of them, everybody should realize like the rest of it's probably bullshit. But sometimes that shit, it convinces people. If you throw 10 things out there and then you only respond to one of them, people might think, maybe the other 9 are true. So credit to Pakman for really like nipping this in the bud here.
So if you go to DennisMontgomery.com, we put that up just for comments like yours there because they have attacked him.
But hold on a second, Mike. I want to make sure I know what you're saying here. You're saying that the reporting about Dennis Montgomery in the New York Times, the Register from the UK, Bloomberg, the Las Vegas Review-Journal, New West, Nevada Today, NPR, Wired, Courthouse News Service, USA Today, Las Vegas. It's all fake. It's all a lie.
Yeah, you know what, David?
Wow.
Yes. And here's what I'm telling you that's why we put up the DennisMontgomery.com page.
Oh, that's glorious. All right, let me jump ahead here a little bit. There's another moment in particular that I want to show you guys.
Preliminary junctions to get rid of these electronic voting machines.
What we want
That's
on the
my
program,
whole focus, David.
What we want on the program is just clarity.
Okay, so he says, I just want to get rid of the electronic voting machines. Hey, you know what? I can get on board with that. I can get on board with paper ballots and things of that nature. No problem whatsoever. If I was in Congress, I would vote for that. I would vote for that, without a doubt. But the thing about Lindell is, and I remember this because we covered this previously, Lindell accused a particular county or district of, having the votes were hacked and they went to Joe Biden and they were really supposed to go to Donald Trump, and we've got the proof, we've got the evidence, we've got the data, look at the numbers, look at this thing. And when people looked into that, they realized not only is that wrong, it is egregiously wrong because the particular place that he chose to pick on, they do have paper ballots. And at no point are the machines that they use connected to the internet. So you can't even fucking hack it. So I have no problem whatsoever with the idea of, like, let's have paper ballots, stuff. No problem at all. In fact, I support that stuff. But just understand, this guy is either a liar or a dupe, because so many of the specific claims he's made of fraudulent election are just totally bogus. They're beyond bogus. They don't even pass the smell test. You look into these things for 0.2 seconds and you go, oh, it's bullshit. Anyway.
Because I don't want anybody to misunderstand. When you said you have that case, this case you just cited has nothing to do with you.
This case here is everything I would have wanted to do, but they got we're in 2 tracks coming to the Supreme Court.
Okay.
They got there first.
Got it.
So he said, I got a Supreme Court case coming up. David looked into it and was like, you have nothing to do with the case. Like, you're not affiliated with the case. And he's like, yeah, but it's the stuff that I've been talking about. And so, I don't know, buddy. We'll see. Is Mike Lindell or somebody who's Mike Lindell adjacent going to win a Supreme Court case? I guess we'll find out.
It's all me. Every focus out there, all across our country, is to get rid of these electronic voting machines.
Which we will get to momentarily.
Right.
So that I can move on to that. I didn't get an answer from you about, will Trump be reinstated before January 25? What's your belief?
My belief is I would hope that, but I can't say. There's no, with the evidence now that would come out that I can release with Dennis Montgomery.
Yep.
I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know.
Oh my God, man. How are you that delusional? I think he means it. He's like, I hope so. I don't know, maybe. You think Donald Trump will be reinstated as president before the next election? Wow. I don't think he understands that when you make a claim like that, it undermines literally everything else you have to say. Because it's like, how can a human brain misfire so spectacularly? It's just... woof. Wow. Look, I play this for you guys to let you know. There's some percentage of people that are like this out there. We call them the TFGs. It stands for too far gones. Now, I'm an optimistic kind of guy on this particular question. I think I have faith in deconverting people from extremism. I do. And that's, one of the primary goals of the show here. But you also have to acknowledge it's not everybody is somebody that you could deconvert. It's some people just are TFG. And Mike Lindell is like the captain of them. My favorite Mike Lindell story is that, I think he got deplatformed from all the big social media outlets. And then he said, well, we're going to create our own. We're going to do our own social media thing. And so he did. He created his own. I think he calls it Frank Speech or something like that. And in the very first interview I saw of him talking about his new free speech social media outlet, he says, we're going to embrace free speech. It's going to be great. And we're going to make sure there's going to be no cursing. There's going to be no taking the Lord's name in vain, no porn, no disrespecting your country. He goes through a whole list of shit. That he's like, all these things are banned on my free speech outlet. What the fuck, bro? He's not playing with a full deck, dog. That's the conclusion. That's the reality. He's not playing with a full deck. So, look, David took this interview. He wanted to do this interview. He knew what he was doing. He knew it's like, this isn't one of those interviews where it's like, well, maybe we can have an interesting exchange of ideas, and maybe he can convince me of some things, and I can convince him of some things, and we can look for truth together. No, this is like let's bring on the guy who probably needs meds and sort of show him and his ideology for what it is, which is disconnected to an extent, I didn't even know was possible. So, anyway, go check out the rest of the interview. Some really wild stuff. And what's funny is, even though Lindell goes off by the end of it, it seems like he would love to come back on the David Pakman show because no other place will have him. They won't take him on any of the mainstream media outlets. I think even now, Newsmax and One America News, I think even they've soured on him because they're all of those right-wing outlets are facing lawsuits from Smartmatic and the other, whatever the other voting company was, the people who make the machines, because they made demonstrably incorrect and defamatory statements about these machines by embracing the conspiracy theories. And so these companies are suing because they're like, fuck you, you're destroying us and our business model. We're not going to get any business anymore because you're lying that Venezuela is hacking our machines or some shit. And so they're afraid to bring on somebody like Mike Lindell because they don't want any more, multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar lawsuits. So, but, David has him on, and then David tries to hold him accountable, so even if he says something that's untrue, David won't get slapped with a lawsuit. But anyway, there you have it. Interesting stuff. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You want to.